All right, it is Wednesday, my dudes, and you are watching The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lancia behind the wheel here for the next hour or so. So what do we got coming up? This is where we're going. We're going to make stops in NHL free agency because that opens up at noon today. Best bets, top plays on the diamond, plus who to stuff in your Millie Maker lineup ahead of the Open, the 150th edition of the Open. That tees off, by the way, around 1:30 Eastern time tomorrow morning. So you got to get on that right meow. But we're going to get this party started with an NFL edition of Rivalry Wednesday. Let's go. Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Pratt, they are here to analyze some team matchup specials on the DK Sportsbook. So let's start here, guys, with one of the most watched clashes around the country. We got the Eagles, we got the Cowboys here. For the series to split, you can get minus 115 odds on the DK Sportsbook, Pierce. For Dallas to sweep, plus 255. For Philly to sweep, go 2-0 in the regular season, plus 290. Which one would you bet, dude?
I'll take America's team with the sweep. Dallas has an opportunistic defense. We saw them get a lot of turnovers last season. I don't know if they can repeat that. That does seem like a stat that's going to vary a lot. But if you look at the quarterback for Philadelphia, it's a guy that you really can't count on. It's a guy that you cannot trust. Maybe Jalen Hurts turns a corner this season. But right now, where I stand, I like the opportunistic defense against Jalen Hurts. I like what Pollard's doing. They've increased his workload the last 2 seasons. He gets better. That keeps Zeke fresh, which is going to be important to keep them late in the season in the playoff hunt and for a playoff run. And Pollard might actually be the better running back. The line for Dallas may have taken a small step back. They're still going to be fine. But, I mean, you look at the other side, though. Philadelphia has basically Pro Bowlers all across their offensive line. They've got, which helps that three-headed monster in their backfield. They've got 2 1,000-yard receivers probably. But for me, it comes down to Hurts. If Hurts plays well, then I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm going to be embarrassed really badly. But that's a huge weak link. They've got everything on that team except for quarterback. So I feel comfortable going with the Cowboys and thinking that Hurts isn't quite there yet.
All right. In my opinion, you already look like an idiot because you called the Cowboys America's team. You and I both know that is the Jacksonville Jaguars now. Come on, that is your Super Bowl pick next year. Hey, Jeff, what do you want here? Any chance you're thinking the Eagles, despite who they have at quarterback and what Pierce just said, can sweep this series?
No, the Eagles aren't going to sweep this series. Let's not go crazy. But I do think we're looking at a split here. It's fair to say Philly got much better this offseason, and Dallas got a little bit worse. A.J. Brown gives Jalen Hurts that true number one option he's been looking for. Yes, I understand Jalen Hurts is still not a phenomenal quarterback, but I think with the weapons they put around him, he's going to be better this year. And if he's not, then, well, a new quarterback will be under center in Philly the following season. Meanwhile, Dallas lost a huge part of their receiving core in Amari Cooper. There were a couple of huge additions to Philly's defense. Hassan Reddick is going to take their pass rush to the next level. Jordan Davis through the draft is just a monster. James Bradbury, in my opinion, is still a premier corner in this league. And then Nakobe Dean fell a little bit in the draft, but he can make an impact right away if he's healthy. Dallas on the other side, they lost Randy Gregory. These teams are really even heading into this season. I think shout out to the NFC East. I'm not sure we can call it the NFC least anymore. We've got a couple of actual competitors in this division. So I think a split is likely heading into this one.
Yeah, then you got Carson Wentz in our nation's capital. Absolutely, it's no longer the NFC least. Let's go two organizations here that absolutely hate each other, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Games between these two teams, they are physical. They are extremely angry. They both have quarterback problems right now, although one is unlike the other. So a season series split, plus 100. You get plus money actually on all of these here. Baltimore taking it 2-0, plus 160. Pittsburgh here, Jeff, 2-0, plus 475. But either game in the series to end in a tie, let's not sleep on this. Plus 2,500. Steelers had a tie last season. Which one you betting?
I think the Ravens are going to take care of business and sweep this series. I mean, looking at their offseason additions, bringing in guys like Michael Pierce, Marcus Williams, Morgan Moses, those are great depth additions. I also like the Tyler Linderbaum pick in the draft. Kyle Hamilton's incredibly talented. Baltimore's just done really well in drafts over the past 5-ish years, it seems like. And then all of that said, the biggest thing for the Ravens is getting healthy, bringing back Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, J.K. Dobbins, Ronnie Stanley, All of those players are huge for this team. Meanwhile, the Steelers, as we know, are in a mini rebuild mode, whether it's Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett under center in Pittsburgh. I'm not expecting either one of them to do a lot of damage against this tough Baltimore defense. There's a big gap between these teams. Give me the Ravens to sweep.
All right, which one do you want here, Pierce?
I will also take the Ravens with the sweep. This is basically, as Jeff mentioned, the injuries were a huge deal last season.
Yeah.
This is pretty much a different team. You can really throw 2021 out and just look back at 2020. Look at what this offense did with Gus and with Dobbins and Lamar Jackson. 3,000 yards rushing. The next closest team was the Titans, 300 fewer yards. The next closest was 600 yards down the mark with the Browns. So you have a team that absolutely can run all over teams. And oh, hey, by the way, guess what? Pittsburgh, worst in the NFL when it came to defending the rush last season. This is a great spot, and it makes sense. I mean, if you're Pittsburgh and what they have done is improve the pass rush, they've improved their pass defense because guess what? Every team in the NFL, they all pass. So if you're scheming and planning and getting personnel, you defend the pass. You don't really worry about the rush. And that really has helped out the Ravens the last couple seasons because they're the only team that's building pretty much for the run attack. And so basically every team's basically like forfeiting or punting these games because they can't change their personnel. They can't change their schemes. It's just really an unfair matchup when you face on your schedule the one team in the league that runs the ball. I know Pittsburgh's gotten better defensively, but offensively they also still have problems. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be, and the offensive line's not that great. And oh, by the way, as Jeff mentioned, that pass defense in Baltimore, yeah, they were terrible last season, but everybody is back. They've made additions. The Ravens are for real.
All right, guys, how about a rivalry that is no longer one-sided? In the AFC East, it's the Bills and the Patriots. Bills owned them last season. How about this year, though, Pierce? Do you think the Bills could sweep this series? You get plus 110 odds. Season split, plus 110 as well. But for New England and Bill Belichick, can you sleep on the hoodie? Plus 800 for them to upset the Bills not once but twice in the regular season.
It's one-sided. It's just not one-sided for New England anymore. It's going to be Buffalo in this, but at these odds in July, you can't bet this. You're better off going and purchasing a CD or putting your money in bonds than betting the Bills to win both these games. It is really, it's enticing to go after the Patriots at that number. They are the Patriots. It's Bill Belichick, maybe Mac and Parker find some sort of connection, or maybe, some point in the season, Buffalo is dealing with injuries, or maybe we have the weather concerns. That's how New England stole one from the Bills last season. Anything is possible in that regard. But on paper, if we're just making an accurate bet, the Bills are pretty tough to beat. There really isn't a weakness. You could point to the lack of a rush attack, but that's their scheme. That's their game plan. They're built around that. They don't run the ball. If anything, they just pass to their running backs. And hey, guess what? They drafted a receiving running back. They've gotten better in all their positions. On paper, you would play the Bills, but the odds just aren't there. So I don't mind taking a chance on the Patriots and hoping something fortunate comes your way during the season.
All right, Jeff, can the Patriots beat the team that is currently the Super Bowl favorite on the DK Sportsbook, the Buffalo Bills? Can they beat them once this season and split it?
Yeah, they can beat them once this season. I understand everything Pierce said. Yes, there is a big talent gap between these teams, but every year we see it. Something happens in these games. Yes, the Bills killed the Patriots in the playoffs. I don't want to revisit that coming from New England, but basically, as we see every year, Bill Belichick, I understand he's kind of dropped off maybe a tiny bit, no longer considered the best coach in the NFL. I think that honor definitely goes to Sean McVay at this point, but Belichick still finds a way to scheme and win games that he probably shouldn't win, especially against divisional opponents. The Bills are much better than the Patriots on paper, as Pierce said. They spent a ton of money this offseason to bring in Von Miller. Outside of that, we know what they bring to the table. But on the Patriots side, outside of losing J.C. Jackson, which was a big loss, that's understandable, I actually like what the Patriots did to bolster their roster this offseason. Mac Jones has really dedicated himself to getting stronger and leaner. There's already a significant difference if you look at him compared to last year. I know that meme was surfacing around of him after winning the national championship with Alabama. He's got his beer gut, and then compared to now where he looks like Superman. But I do expect a year two jump from him, all things considered. They bolster their receiving core with Devontae Parker. Maybe Tyquan Thornton can give you something. Jonnu Smith should be much more involved this year. He spent the entire offseason in New England working with Mac and the coaching staff, so hopefully they get something out of their really expensive tight end there. And then defensively, they drafted 2 talented corners. They brought Malcolm Butler back. We'll see if he has anything left in the tank. They signed Jabril Peppers, traded for Mac Wilson, just a lot of solid depth moves, and they got smaller on the outside to take care of these really small, fast divisional opponents. And I'm talking about like Tyreek Hill, even Stephon Diggs counts there. But yes, the Patriots can definitely split this series. It's just they're going to need a little luck on their side.
Yeah, not concerned about the loss of N'Keal Harry, huh?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. I think the Bears maybe overpaid a little bit with the 7th round pick. Let's go to the NFC North. This division's bringing the beef from the get-go, guys. Week 1, we're going to have the Vikings and Packers meeting on September 11th. So 2 elites battling here, Pierce. Aaron Rodgers without Davante Adams and Kirk Cousins. Reed T. Fowler's Kirk Cousins. Season series split, plus 100. Green Bay to sweep, plus 150. Look at Minnesota there, though. 2-0, Pierce, plus 550. What do you like?
I can't go that far, but I do expect these teams to split. They split last season, and that was with the Packers being a far superior team offensively and defensively. The Vikings were still able to take one. The Packers, not quite as good as they were last year. I would think the defense is probably right there, but Rodgers is a year older. They've lost Davante Adams. Tons of question marks in that receiving core, especially week 1. Remember last year, week 1 for the Packers didn't go so well. That's a great time for the Vikings to strike. The Vikings seem to have improved. It's hard to say that they have improved, honestly, when your quarterback is still Kirk Cousins. But we know that Jefferson, Thielen, and Cook are all going to be strong, if not better. It just comes down to Cousins. And tons of upside, but also a very low floor has kind of been the career for Kirk Cousins. But we'll see now, though. He's got, for the first time really ever, he's got an offensive-minded head coach, an offensive coordinator. Maybe that will click. Maybe that will bring the best out of Cousins. I think it will, but still, ultimately, the biggest problem the Vikings going to run into is that defense did not play very well last season. They're switching to a 3-4 system. We don't know how well that's going to work out. Some of the problems last year were because of health issues. They're going to be healthy. They've got the players, but you got a new coach, new defensive coordinator. Are these things going to work out for them? I don't know, but I still think that the Vikings will be good enough to go 1-1 in the series.
I mean, Jeff, once again, either game to tie in a series, plus 2,500. Something they did just about 3 seasons ago. Food for thought.
They did. I'm going to take a split in this one as well. I agree with Pierce. It feels like everyone still expects the Packers to win the NFC North with ease this year, and that's going to be the case for as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. But there's still not as much general hype around this team without Davante Adams, and rightfully so. That being said, they still have the reigning back-to-back MVP. Lambeau is one of, if not the toughest places to play on the road, so they'll take care of that one. And then I like what Minnesota is building. I agree with Pierce. Outside of Kirk Cousins, their offense is phenomenal, and I think he's going to be just good enough to get them a win at home this year. They split last season. The talent gap shrunk since then, so I think there's a good chance it happens again.
All right, apologies to America's division, the division of the working man, the AFC South. We have run out of time. You two are wonderful. I appreciate the help. Where our analysts think some of the biggest NHL names will land in free agency coming up right after this break. All right, as it turns out, the Penguins won't be able to replace Evgeny Malkin, especially since he isn't going anywhere. Late Tuesday night, the Penguins announcing the superstar center is returning to the only team he's played for during his 16-year career. He signs a 4-year deal worth $6 million a season, not too shabby. He was expected to test the market for the first time because free agency opens at high noon Eastern time today. So this year's class, certainly deep at forward, a little thin on defense and goaltending. Let's bring in DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and RotoWire's Paul Bruno here to predict the landing spot for some of the top guys out there. And a trade just breaking about 10 minutes ago. So the Devils shipping off Pavel Xhaka shipping him off to the Bruins to acquire Erik Haula. Jeff, just your immediate reaction from this trade, and I guess which team not really wins it. You don't really know that for like a little while, but who do you think benefits the most from this?
Yeah, I don't know if the official return is Erik Haula or what, but for now, regardless, let's just talk about Pavel Xhaka because I think it's a really nice addition by the Boston Bruins. This is a pretty young player, 25 years old, plays special teams, a very good special teams player too. It hasn't always shone through because the Devils haven't been that good, but he's very well-rounded and he does have some offensive capabilities. I think he's going to fit in very well in potentially the third or even second line for Boston. He's a guy they can move up and down the lineup, which has kind of been their weakness, right? Just not having that oomph in the second and third line. I think it's a great move by Boston to get him. I'm not really sure why the Devils wanted to trade him.
All right, Paul, what do you think? Boston has kind of found another youngish forward to slot into the middle six, right?
I like this trade for Boston. I think Jersey's got bigger fish to fry than you're going to hear the name Johnny Gaudreau linked to them a little bit later on. I think that's a big part of this equation. Maybe even if that doesn't work out, Nazem Kadri. So they're thinking about another move. So they may have taken a bit of a hit here, and good for Boston for capitalizing. I think that's a clever bit of business for them. And you all already know that David Krejci is also a part of that equation as well. Yeah. So it's a cost-cutting measure for the Bruins and Jersey as well in a different manner. But I think this is going to be a situation that just paves the way for other deals. So a good bit of business for both clubs.
Yeah, a countryman there of Pasta and Krejci. And Krejci, by the way, has been rumored to be in negotiations with the Bruins for a return, possibly 1 year. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm sure they'll enjoy having him in the dressing room. Let's look elsewhere around free agency right now because we got pint-sized Johnny Gaudreau, who should get a big raise from the near $7 million he made last year in Calgary, guys. He's told the Flames, I'm not coming back. Peace out, Cub Scout. The winger scoring a career best 115 points last season, finished fourth in the Hart Trophy voting. Where is he going to end up next season, Paul?
I'm going to say it's one of two teams, New Jersey or Philadelphia. Philadelphia has long been rumored to be interested in him, but Jersey's come on board lately, and we just talked about a bit of business that might pave the way a little bit. And so definitely a situation where he wants to come a little bit closer to home. He's about to have his first child, and the Calgary situation is a tough one for them because they lose a guy who was second in the NHL in scoring, frees up a little bit of salary for them, salary cap money for them too. So I'm kind of curious which way they go, but their future will not include the diminutive superstar.
Hey, Jeff, Devils could have an advantage here with Gaudreau because he grew up in New Jersey.
Yeah, he did. And I like this Xhaka move. It's got to be Johnny Gaudreau related.
Yeah.
I'm actually be surprised if he didn't go to the Devils at this point. I think it's a really smart move for them too. This is a team that, they're far away, but they're really not that far away because they do have a lot of young talent, just this nice group that they've got. And you add in a guy like Johnny Gaudreau to the top six, and it just kind of supercharges the rebuild a little bit. It's a veteran player who's obviously extremely skilled. He's going to be able to take guys like Jack Hughes to the next level. So it's a big loss for Calgary too. They really have nobody in the pipe to replace this guy. So the Flames may just look like a completely different team. And if Gaudreau does sign with the Devils, which I fully expect is going to happen because I just have no idea why he'd want to go to Philly with the state of their club, I think it's a great move by them. I really do. And I think that he deserves the kind of contracts that he's getting. He is a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit injury prone, but I think you put him in the right spot. He's still got 2 or 3 really, really solid years left.
All right, now you got a Stanley Cup champ looking for a significant raise here, too. Nazem Kadri stands out as obviously one of the best free agents in this center class. Scored a career best 87 points last year. Critical piece in Colorado's Cup run. Who needs to sign this guy, Jeff?
Yeah, Kadri is a really interesting, subject right now with the free agency. He doesn't have. He's obviously covering off a career year. Whenever you get hockey players coming off the career year, it's a little bit, it's a little dangerous. Your team goes out and they spend like way too much money on him, and then he regresses. He's like, well, this is the player he was before this year. But Kadri has proven to be a really, really good second line center behind a guy like Nathan MacKinnon. And there are teams out there where he can go. St. Louis, the Rangers have been very rumored to Nazem Kadri, where he can slot in again as that second line role. And I think that's the kind of team that needs to sign Nazem Kadri. If you get him to like New Jersey should not be signing Nazem Kadri, at least in my opinion. They're just not there. You don't need Nazem Kadri necessarily to come in and lead your team. But if he slots in that same kind of role with the Rangers or the Blues, I think it's a really good spot, both those places. I know both those teams are going to have to do some fancy paperwork to fit this guy in, but it is doable. And I really think that when it comes down to it, it will be the Rangers or the Blues where Nazem Kadri ends up going. Because again, is this a player who just wants to go and take the biggest contract and just flounder for a couple of years on a non-contender? I don't think so. I think he'll end up in a New York or a St. Louis, because I really think that's the best spot for him.
All right, Paul, I'm seeing the Red Wings rumored to be a potential destination for him as well, considering their cap space and the number of young players they have under contract, and that they're just in a position to outbid other clubs.
That's certainly a possibility. Don't discount Steve Yzerman. He's building something there, and it may take a couple more years, but Kadri would be a nice centerpiece to what they're doing. But I also want to throw another team in. I think the Rangers are going to be in on this, but their crosstown rivals, the Islanders, are a player that I really think could be a surprise element. A couple of years ago, Lou Lamoriello, when these guys were together in Toronto, said that Nazem Kadri is a guy that he wants in the trenches with him, and he'd go to war with him. I don't think his opinion has changed, and Kadri's only grown as a player and a person in that time frame. So watch the Islanders in this circumstance. Lou Lamoriello loves this guy.
All right, let's go Claude Giroux next here, guys. Scored 23 points in 18 games to the Panthers after the longtime Flyers captain was traded there at the deadline this year. 34 years young. May not be as productive as he once was, but his experience and leadership could certainly help a contending team. Reports are the Sens are the front runners in the sweepstakes here. Who should be in on Giroux? Paul.
Look, he had a nice time in Florida, enjoyed his stint there, and was productive, looked very good. I'm sure they're going to take a shot at trying to fit him back in, but Ottawa is a primary suitor for a reason, and we're hearing it more and more. These players that are getting on in years, toward the middle to the latter part of their careers, they're interested in playing near home base, and for him, that's the Ottawa region. So that's why the Senators are a big team in play, but don't discount the fact that he had a good stint in Florida, and they like him too. So it's between those two clubs, in my opinion.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I don't really know if the Ottawa Senators are going to benefit that much from a 34-year-old Claude Giroux, but it does seem to be like he may just be taking the hometown, just going to the hometown and not necessarily worrying about the team or the squad or how far away the Ottawa Senators are. In my opinion, the other team that's going to factor in here is the Edmonton Oilers, who were linked to him initially, but it does sound like he just wants to stay in Ottawa. If the competitive juices get going and he really wants to get on another cup contender, don't be shocked if Edmonton ends up stealing him. Because, I mean, obviously the Oilers are a team that's very close. And adding Claude Giroux, a guy who can, again, slot up and down. He can play like a ton of special teams. He could fit in their third line if they need him to. But he could certainly play in the top six. I think it would be a really nice fit there for Claude Giroux. I think that's the better hockey fit. But this one does kind of seem like a done deal. I'd almost be shocked if he doesn't sign with Ottawa at this point. That's where he is right now. It sounds like he's just going to go and play for his hometown squad, which is fine. It's just I don't really think it's the best hockey fit because I'm not really sure what the Ottawa Senators are necessarily going to be able to offer Claude Giroux over the next 2 or 3 years, except for just playing on probably a non-playoff team.
Yeah, and again, guys, not the deepest class when it comes to netminders, but Darcy Kemper, probably the best name on the market there at that position. The Avs moving on from the cup-winning netminder after acquiring Alexander Georgiev from the Rangers. So expectations here, according to reports in the past few hours, he's going to sign with the Capitals. How do you like that fit, Jeff?
I don't mind it. I mean, Kemper is a veteran goalie, and he's going to a veteran squad. I mean, I think that, when you get a team like the Capitals, who should still be, pretty competitive, they've got an aging core, but, they're going to be competitive in spots. And Darcy Kemper, one thing we've seen from him is that he can certainly put together strings of extremely high-end play. He's not as consistent as some of the other high-end goalies, but Washington is a pretty good defensive squad as well, and I think that Kemper will give them a little bit of stability back there. When one thing that really hurt the Capitals last year is just really inconsistent goaltending, and now those young guys that they have behind Kemper, or are going to have one of them behind Kemper, they're just not going to be relied on as much. I think that Washington absolutely needed some stability in goal. I don't think that at this point they were willing to necessarily make some blockbuster trade for one of like the top 5 goalies in the league or anything. I don't think they needed to, but I think Kemper fits in very nicely. It's another veteran squad for them. And I think that it makes the Capitals just more stable as a team. I think it gives them the chance that if they can just get in a playoff spot again, they'll just have a better chance of going further, because Kemper, as we've seen, can step up his play in spots long enough to steal playoff series. So I like it. It's not like mind-blowing or anything, and I don't think it makes the Capitals like a cup contender necessarily, but I do think it makes them a better team. That's really the whole point of signing free agents. So. Yeah,
and Paul, really the Caps haven't had a reliable goalie since their own cup year too. So they're going to get some stability back there in the crease. They just sent their other 2 goalies packing over the last 5 days.
Exactly. That's the part where I'll start. I mean, certainly they pivoted away from both of their young guys, and so you wonder what they're thinking is long term. Maybe they're not thinking about it at all. Clearly, this move is an indicator that they're clearly in win now mode. Jeff touched on it. The core of this team is one of the older groups in the league. But man, oh man, if they don't win now, they're going to be in a massive rebuild that's going to make them irrelevant for years after this next couple of seasons, in my opinion.
All right, guys, real quick, just on this last one, hook me up with a prediction. Like any other free agents, and you predicting a landing spot for him, Paul?
I'm going to say John Klingberg is going to be highly sought after by Carolina. They moved off of Tony DeAngelo, so they've got a room for a pivotal a kingpin on their back end to drive their power play, since they're missing that element now. Seattle could be a player in that way too. Andrew Kopp linked to the Detroit Red Wings, parlaying a solid last couple of seasons. I think something interesting is going on in Detroit. They're still a couple of years away. The Leafs need to solve their goaltending issues, and Ilya Samsonov has been rumored as the 1B part of their new tandem going forward. That's because Jack Campbell is all but signed and sealed to Jeff's favorite club.
All right, Jeff, give me a prediction.
Yeah, I think that the Oilers are actually going to be like a very interesting team when free agency hits. Giroux probably off the table now, but Mason Marchment, David Perron, a couple names you could easily see them sign. I mean, these are players who are just going to add depth to the lineup. And, the Oilers have been extremely busy in cutting salary. It sounds like Jack Campbell is going to be their new goalie, which, I mean, as an Oilers fan, anything is better than what they've been offering there for the last couple of years. So even overpaying a little bit, probably not a bad idea, just to get some stability there. But, there's a couple other players that, we mentioned Klingberg there. It's not like a super deep defensive class. So expect some of these defensemen to get potentially bigger deals than people may think they get. And I don't think the trade front is necessarily done yet either. I think you're going to see a lot of like I said, fancy paperwork. Don't be shocked if there's some 3-team deals involved to fit guys under the cap, maybe with a guy like Nazem Kadri as well. So the Oilers are a team I'd be looking to be very busy today, and potentially even landing like a player a little bit out of left field.
All right, well, latest report now popping up minutes ago. We got the Hurricanes close to acquiring Brent Burns from the San Jose Sharks. So the deal reportedly not done yet. We'll see what happens. Again, the madness has begun. Free agency officially opening at high noon around the NHL. So, Paul, you are free to go. Appreciate the help today. Jeff, stick around. We're going to talk some golf coming up, delivering some top DFS plays, though, and best bets around Major League Baseball right after this quick break. Check this out. A bad beat for the ages last night in New York. The Yankees had a 3-0 lead entering the ninth inning against the Reds. Yeah, the lowly Reds, but Cincinnati scoring 4 times and took down baseball's best team. As you can see, a 99% win probability according to Action Network. And the Reds were plus 1,700 on the money line entering the final frame. Clay Holmes has been so automatic this season. So when he was handed a 3-run lead in the ninth, like, the buses would have been smart to just start warming up there. But then Nick Fryer, he throws the win away like he did with a few pitches to the backstop. I thought he was an all-star, dude. You're a former pitcher. Talk to me.
It would be nice if they had a guy who threw absolute smoke out of that bullpen who you could rely on every single night to just come in. Maybe if he was left-handed too, might just give guys a different look. If the Yankees had somebody like that they could actually turn to, it'd probably be pretty helpful. But now they got to rely on Holmes, who's been great. Look, stuff's going to happen. It happened to Mo in the past too. I'd be lying if I said I didn't find it hysterical because, last night I'm thinking, they have this on lock. They're up early and everything. Cole's dealing. But yeah, this is a brutal look for the Yankees. I don't know how you don't finish that one off. But again, it happens.
Mm-hmm. And manager of the year, the Yankees have, according to Jared Carrabis. RotoWire's Eric Halterman, also here. He just popped up on your screen. Dude, I want to cover the bases here. Let's touch on some bets here in just a moment. But first, Easy E, who's your favorite high-priced DFS play?
Yeah, let's go with the guy that I've liked even since draft season. That's Corey Seager, 5,100 tonight against Oakland righty Paul Blackburn, who is, I guess I should give him the honorific all-star Paul Blackburn. I mean, he's an all-star because he plays for Oakland. He is actually decent this year, which is a surprise given what he's been in past years. But that 3.36 ERA doesn't reflect who he really is. He allows a ton of contact. He's not the kind of pitcher you need to be scared of. Corey Seager, on the other hand, is a guy who's had one of the biggest gaps between his actual and expected numbers all year, hitting at just 245, but his expected average is all the way up at 306. There's a similar gap, about 130 points between his actual and expected slugging. It couldn't be clearer that his numbers were going to turn around if he kept performing the same way he had, if he kept making the same kind of contact, and that's happened. He's homered in 5 consecutive games and in 6 of his last 7. Really, his hot streak goes over the last month when he has a 1017 OPS. Seager, I think, always was making excellent contact, didn't really have the results early, but he's had them lately. I think he's one of the best high-price plays out there.
All right, who are you targeting, Nick? Who are you going to spend some cash on?
Yeah, I'm going to go actually back to this Yankees-Red series. And the Yankee that I think could get easily overlooked tonight is Giancarlo Stanton at 5.4K. He's going up against Mike Minor, and Stanton has not been great against left-handed pitching over the last month and a half. I know he hasn't faced lefties a ton during that span, but still, but the thing is, 1.18 BABIP during that span and a 36.8% hard contact rate. So he's due to bust out against left-handed pitching, and doing so against Mike Minor makes a ton of sense for him. 7 for 23 in his career against Minor, 4 home runs in and a double in that over that stretch. And then right-handed hitters have a 35.7% hard contact rate against Mike Minor and just a 29.8% ground ball rate, which has led to 9 home runs, 8 doubles, and a 433 WOBA from right-handed hitters against Minor this season.
All right, let's make our way to second base, Nick. Who's your favorite value play in DFS?
Yeah, Ryan Mountcastle's a guy that kind of jumps out for us fairly often. And he's, again, tonight does so at 3.6K. Of course, at first base, you have a lot of big bats that you can go with. But I like him tonight going up against the left-handed pitcher in Justin Steele. When you look at what Mountcastle's done throughout the course of the season, he's done really well against left-handed pitching, coming off a goose egg last night. Since June 1st, Mountcastle has a 51.7% hard contact rate against left-handed pitching and a 24.1% line drive rate. That's led to a 306 ISO and a 444 WOBA against left-handed pitching during that span.
All right, Easy E, value play in DFS.
Yeah, normally I give just one. I'm going to give 3 here, although that's because the logic's the same for all of them. You've got a Padres trio of Eric Hosmer, Esteury Ruiz, and Nomar Mazara, who will cost you a combined 6,100. That's 100 more than the minimum for the 3 of them. I believe Mazara is at 2,100. The other 2 guys are as cheap as it gets. And I haven't even mentioned yet that they're playing at Coors Field. What is going on there? Why are we having regulars at Coors who are at the minimum price? I mean, not that these guys are great. I mean, Eric Hosmer league average bat, though. That's pretty good for a minimum price at Coors. Nomar Mazar has actually been pretty good this year, and Asturi Ruiz is an exciting prospect. He stole 60 bases in 77 minor league games this year. Came up, made his debut yesterday, had 2 hits, attempted to steal but was caught. These are the biggest values out there, I think. I don't know why they're at the minimum. I think they should all be at least 1,000 more.
Third base, we're moving over to the DraftKings Sportsbook here. Eric, favorite run line or money line bet?
Yeah, I'll be a homer here and go Phillies minus 105 at Blue Jays. The lineups are pretty similar, and then on the pitching side, you've got Zach Wheeler versus Ross Stripling, and I know Ross Stripling's been pitching pretty well lately. 3.34 ERA on the season, and while that's better than the ERA estimators, not by a ton. They're sitting in the high threes. Not striking out a ton of guys, but he doesn't walk anybody. He keeps the ball on the ground. So good for him. He's been looking like a solid mid-rotation starter, but he's no Zach Wheeler, who's pitching on the other side. 2.46 ERA on the season for Wheeler. And if you remember, he started the season quite poorly. I think he had some minor injury worries in spring training, had a delayed spring, and his first 3 starts back really looked like he wasn't healthy and maybe should have missed some time. If you throw out those 3 starts, his ERA drops all the way from 2.46 to 1.53. And maybe he's, outperforming his peripherals a little bit, but it still looks like very much a Zach Wheeler season. The gap between those 2 starters is way too big for me to say that this one should be at pretty close to a push. I'd go Phillies minus 120, minus 130 here, I think.
What do you like here, Fryer?
Speaking of pretty close to a push, I mean, you look at that Angels-Astros game, you got 2 stud pitchers going tonight in Christian Javier and Shohei Ohtani, and I know that the Angels are slightly favored a little bit despite Mike Trout not being in, but I do like the Angels in this one tonight. When Trout doesn't start, the Angels are 6-5. When he doesn't play at all, the Angels are 6-3 this season. So if he doesn't play tonight, they should be fine. Doesn't really impact what they've been doing throughout the course of the year. Surprisingly, it's only baseball that can that happen. But when you look at Javier, I know he's been lights out for the majority of this season. But one thing that I've noticed, so he's coming off his 4th loss of the season. So the Astros are now 8-8 when he makes a start this year. So surprising given how well he's done. All of his losses have come in bunches. He had 3 in a row in April. He had back-to-back in May. He had back-to-back again in June. So this is his first loss of July. So I like that trend to kind of continue tonight with Ohtani on the mound. He's done well against the Astros when he's seen them this season. So as much as in no Yordan Alvarez too, I think that's going to help the Astros out quite a bit. I mean, the Angels out quite a bit in this one.
All right, let's go home here. Last one, favorite game or team total. Eric, I'm seeing the highest one on the DK Sportsbook currently, Padres and Rockies 10.5. I know you just mentioned a few Padres players.
Yeah, I think the Padres can score some runs off Chad Kuhl, although Joe Musgrove on the other side is going to do enough that I'm a little bit worried about betting the over on that one, despite the Coors Field effect. My favorite here is White Sox at Guardians over 8 runs. That's at minus 105. The White Sox lineup has not been what it's supposed to be this year, but that's because it hasn't been present. I mean, they've been hit by so many injuries throughout the year. All of their key pieces, it seems like, have missed considerable time. They're almost fully healthy now, though. Yasmani Grandal is really the only key hitter still out. I think if you look at teams who are going to perform much better, specifically lineups that are going to perform much better in the second half, it's a healthy White Sox. The 2 pitchers don't inspire a ton of confidence. Lucas Giolito ought to, but he's got a 5.05 ERA on the year. That's far worse than his ERA estimators, but he's not pitching well lately. 5 or more earned runs in 3 of his last 5 starts. Then Aaron Savali on the other side. His ERA starts with a 6. Again, his ERA estimators are better than that, but he's nothing special. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys, doesn't walk many, I guess, but he's about as bland of a back-end starter as it gets. I think 8 is far too low here.
All right, Nick, what are you targeting?
Eric and I are in lockstep on this one, so I'll keep it pretty quick. Giolito has given up 5+ runs in 3 of his last 5 starts. And then you look at Savali. I know he's been better to start July, but still he's getting this. The over on Wednesday's total has hit in 2 of his last 4 starts. When you look at season long for these 2 guys on the season, Giolito, 10 of his 15 starts, this over has hit. And then 8 of Savali's 11 starts, this over has hit as well.
Dudes, that's all the time we have. No extra bases. Congratulations. The game has ended. We have a golf millie maker to chit-chat about, and our analysts are going to give you some picks right after this. Another major, another golf millionaire contest this week on DraftKings. $25 to enter, $3 million in the prize pool, $1 million to first place, plus a spot in the Tournament of Champions semifinal. Grab your spot right now because we've got a 1:35 a.m. Eastern Time lock for action across the pond. Because they're hours ahead of us here in the States. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Reed T. Fowler, and we've got RotoWire senior golf writer Len Hochberg on the horn. We're price checking, guys. People need some help. Who do they stuff inside their Millie Maker lineup? So let's start here ahead of golf's fourth and final major at St. Andrews this season. 10K plus. Where are you going here, Reed T. Fowler?
I'm going with the late, great Arnold Palmer. No, it's a beautiful shirt you have on there, Emerson.
Thank you very much.
Scotty Sheffler is my guy at $11,000, guys. He goes out and he wins the first major. In his press conference, someone asked him, there's a lot of correlation from Augusta National to here. He says, and that's pretty nice because I won. I won the Masters, right? He beat out someone like, Cameron Smith, who I'm sure Jeff's going to talk about in a little bit. 5th in tee to green in the past 12 rounds. He's amazing off the tee. Like the putting can get a little shaky. He's 12th in around the green. This guy, what did he do in his 4-win stretch, up and down from every situation, right? When we had outrights on everybody else, not named Scotty Sheffler, what did he do? He got up and down. He even sank those shots when he wasn't supposed to. So give me Scotty.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, who do you want? High-priced dude.
And Scotty Scheffler's he's like last year, dude. I mean, you're living in the early 2022, Reed. It's today now. Inflation is high. We got to pay up for these prices. True. Rory McIlroy at 11-1, man. Well, why would you want to roster anyone but Rory? There's tons of value in this field. Look, we got guys like Lean Mean Dean Burmeister at 6,700 we can roster. My guy Grillo is down there. Wyndham Clark. You can fit in Rory easily this week, and you should. There's really nobody projecting better than him, and I think most people realize this. He's been absolutely lights out at every single major championship. And then you've got the revenge narrative. If you remember back to 2015, Rory was heading in as even a bigger favorite than he was going to be this week already. And he hurt himself in a soccer accident. This is Rory's event. He wants the big win at St. Andrews. It would be an incredible cap to a really good year, and quite frankly, just looks really good on the resume. I like the softer scoring conditions for Rory. He's the guy you should be paying up for this.
Hey, Len, did you know that Jeff thinks we're playing the Barracuda Championship with Rio, Wyndham Clark? You know what? Dean Burmeister? Jesus.
I was going to say,
lower scores at St. Andrews than the Barracuda this week.
Rory's,
save us, please.
There are people who like Wyndham Clark this week. I'm not on the list, but I've actually heard that.
All right, well, Len, who's on your list here for a guy who's going to cost you at least 10K?
Yeah, I like what both Reed and Jeff did have to say in all seriousness. And Scotty Sheffler scares me because he always seems to be under the radar. He's not one of the cool kids on the tour like Rory and Jordan, who I'm about to talk about in a second. And Sheffler seems to have even got a little bit hosed with his featured group, or his group. It's not a featured group. I don't even remember who he's playing with, But I like Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth, much like, Rory, has some unfinished business at St. Andrews. 2015, Jordan Spieth did play, had a bad bogey on 17, and missed the playoff by one shot. I had forgotten about that. I'm sure he didn't. All week, we're talking about needing to be imaginative and creative around the greens. No one probably other than Tiger Woods more creative than Jordan Spieth.
All right, Sweet Tea Fowler, let's go to 9K here. And you know who I'm seeing? Fellow Adidas Potato Chip. I'm seeing Xander Schauffele in there, and no other golfer on the planet has been more hot than this dude as he's won his past two tournaments, man.
Yeah, I feel obligated to talk about Schauffele, but I'm not going to because that's just too easy. He's won back-to-back-to-back if you count the Pro-Am.
Oh, true.
Tournaments. I mean, I guess he is the new Scotty Sheffler, right? Schauffele, that's going to be tough. But I'm going all the way down at $9,100 for a guy that probably most people are fading is Hideki Matsuyama. Ooh. And the reason why is take a look at what he did last week at the Scottish Open. He shot 7 over par, and his driver was everywhere. And he looked like Emerson Lazio off the tee on 1 through 18. It's just left, right, playing Army golf. But what did he do on Friday afternoon on his inward 9. He shot 3 under in his last 6 holes. And this is what we get with Hideki. He gets a wayward driver. He always does a one-handed finish, but it usually ends up in the middle of the fairway or 8 feet from the green. What he's so good at is scrambling and around the green. And Hideki, even though he's got a hodgepodge of finishes at the Open Championship, on debut, he was top 6, I believe, and he has a sprinkle of the top 15 and the top 20 as well. I think Hideki is going under the radar, especially when you have guys like Cantley, Lowry, Smith, and everyone else in this range.
Yeah, he's carried by that number 3 ranking, strokes gained, approach, and ball striking. Len, who do you like in this department, 9K?
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's a lot here, and Matt Fitzpatrick is a guy I like. Somebody brought to my attention. Well, obviously I know he's playing with Tiger, but said, could that be a detriment? And I guess it could. It could be, just a circus out there playing with Tiger Woods. But Shane Lowry at 9,300. He was the champion golfer of the year in 2019. He sat on that title for 2 years. Came back tied for 12th last year. Obviously, he's a Brit, an Irishman. He can play this course and much more creative around the green, softer hands than we would think of a big burly guy like him.
All right, Jeffrey, who do you like? By the way, Fitzy, paired with Tiger Woods and Max Homa, the king of chilies there in the Jacks Airport. Reed knows very well.
Yeah, I mean, very intimidating, a guy with that kind of social media presence as well for Matthew Fitzpatrick. I mean, I don't know about Fitzpatrick in the draw with Tiger. It can kind of work both ways. It's not really a positive in my mind, but he's not the guy I wanted to pick anyways. I'm going to take cheaper Xander Schauffele. I'm going to take Patrick Cantley at 9,400. And I mean, there's really just not much. I know Schauffele has won a couple times, but Schauffele and Cantley, you look at their last couple of years, these guys are almost equal. I mean, Cantley kind of carried them to a team win earlier in the season. Cantley's coming in with really, really good form. He just doesn't have 2 wins like Schauffele, but you can get him for $600 cheaper. So $500 cheaper, excuse me. So, I mean, why not take Patrick Cantley, who had a nice lead in last week, played the Scottish Open. This is going to be his 5th Open Championship appearance. It's really not a bad spot for Patrick Cantley, and I think the fact that you're getting him at a discount off of guys like Jordan Spieth, off of guys like Schauffele, who he's been just as good at over the last year and a half, I just feel like you should take it. I think you should eat a little bit of chalk. He's probably not even going to be more popular than at least Schauffele. So Patrick Cantley sets up to me as just a nice upper tier value that you should be building around this week.
All right, let's go to around $8,000, Jeff. Who is your dude here?
I mean, look, you have to play Louis Oosthuizen this week. He's 8,800. You have to get some exposure to him in your DFS lineups. No one's going to play him because he's 8,800. He's 31 under par in his last 8 rounds at the Open Championship. What? This is a veteran course. You need some guile. You talk about shot making. This guy has all the shots in the bag. That's what he does. He doesn't even like to practice. He just likes to go out and do trick shots. It's like the perfect course for Louis. He's going to make the cut. He's probably going to get in there in the top 20. And everyone's going to be like, why didn't I just play Louis at St. Andrews? Yeah, you should pay up for him. I also like Joaquin Niemann in this range. I'll admit, he's just too cheap at 8,000. He's outperformed a lot of the guys in the mid 8K range this week. So Niemann is the actual value in this range. But if you're paying up for someone, you just pay up for Louis. It's his course. He loves this setup. He loves the place. His place's biggest win. You should get some exposure.
Reed, I know we like to give him a lot of crap for his Oosthuizen obsession, but his history here does make him a great mid-tier target.
Yeah, it's just when he comes here, just like everyone, right? Who plays well, it's just another level. Their game sets up perfectly. And Louis, to that point, Jeff is correct in that. Louis also says to the media, I don't know what the big fuss is about the Live Golf Series. So, to that point, right, the Patrick Reeds, the Bryson DeChambeaus, the Louis Oosthuizens now, and a lot of the Live defectors, they're going to have a lower sentiment because of that. People don't want to roster golfers they don't like, right? So Louis now has become one of those players, but he shouldn't this week. Jeff's absolutely right. But I'm going to Sungjae Im at $8,300. Not in the same vein of what Jeff was talking about with Louis, but back-to-back missed cuts for Sungjae Im is rare. When you see 2 missed cuts back-to-back for Sungjae, that is rare. If you take a look at what he's done before those missed cuts, it was fantastic. And he's one of the best guys tee to green over the last handful of rounds, right? So at $8,300, he's by Finau, who clearly I'm going to talk about a little bit later.
Okay, all right.
Joaquin Niemann, Max Homa. So he's in that range, right? Fleetwood is at $8,600. So Sungjae just seems at the right price, too, to get lower ownership.
All right, Len, 8K, mid-tier range. Hook it up.
Yeah, I think a lot. I like Tommy Fleetwood, 8,600. I think a lot of people all week have been talking about him. I'm not going to talk about him here. 8,700. Tyrrell Hatton, not for the faint of heart. He's all or nothing. He's played the Open 9 times. He's made only 3 cuts, but he's finished 5th and 6th. He's such a knucklehead, if I can say that word on whatever we're on here. He's that good and he's that bad, and not for a cash game, maybe for a GPP. He's won the Alfred Dunhill Links twice. That course, it's like Pebble Beach, where they play on a 3-course rotation. 2 of the rounds are on St. Andrews. He could do it, and 8,700 could be a steal.
Yeah, been a very quiet summer for a not so very quiet person. Guys, about 3 minutes to go in show, so let's speed up on these last two. 7K or under. Where do you want to go, Len? Save the people some money.
Justin Rose, 7,400. I'm looking for guys to make cuts. It's going to be really hard to get 6 through. He's made 7 in a row, 5 of them top 25s. Danny Willett at 7,000, 7 of 9 cuts at the Open.
Reed, who do you like here? Because this could be the department that could help someone really finish near the top of a milli maker.
Yeah, if you look at this since 2016, right, of winning lineups, you see a handful of golfers in $7,000 or less. So I'm going to go with Patrick Harrington. I think he's someone that, if you look at guys who have played well here and you see names on the leaderboard, you're like, oh, that's right. Like, he's played DP World Tour events very well. He just won the U.S. Senior Open, and he's won back-to-back Open Championships. So give me Patrick Harrington. A little blast in the past here.
Yeah, Jeff was giving you a bunch of crap for that yesterday. Or who do you like here? Cheap.
He's like 65 years old. I'm going to go. Look, we're playing for upside this week. You want a milli maker pick in the low 7K range. It's Thomas Pieters, in my opinion. You need someone who's going to be able to maybe put up like a 64, 63 this week. 4 of Pieters' 5 wins on the DP World Tour have come at 17 under par or better. He just lost the playoff a few weeks ago at 22 under par. This guy can light it up. He's boomer bust. But guess what? If he hits it this week, he will absolutely challenge for a top 5. He's got a top 5 finish at Augusta as well. Thomas Pieters is a really good milli maker target this week.
All right, now we're going slate approved. Who will be the top scoring golfer in this week's tournament, Reed T. Fowler?
Well, I mean, if there's anybody in this field by the name of Tony Finau that you should be rostering, I mean, look at there's only one other player, guys, since 2016 who has been in multiple milli maker lineups, not named Jordan Spieth. That other guy,
Tony Finau. Yep, I'm looking at your tweet right now. Impressive
That's
stuff.
right. Let's go.
All right, Jeff Ulrich.
I mean, if we're picking like a guy to finish T10, sure, I'd pick Tony Finau, but he's set the highest scoring golfer, Reed. I'm going to go with Patrick Cantley, a guy who actually has like multiple wins over the last few years. He can get red hot with the putter. I think the scoring conditions are going to be good for Cantley this week.
Yeah, just a terrible majors track record there. Len, help us out.
For the highest scoring golfer, if you're going to miss a lot of 3-footers for par, you're going to have to make a lot of birdies. Jordan Spieth.
All right, love it. Everybody, once again, get inside the milli maker available on DraftKings. Just $25 to enter. $1 million, first place up for grabs. Lineups lock at 1:35 Eastern time in the morning tomorrow on Thursday, first round. That's it. We're back here in studio for another edition of The Sweat. And then Jeff, Reed T. Fowler, and I will talk much more. If you have questions, tweet us, slide it into the chat section there on YouTube and Twitch, 5 o'clock Eastern time, the slate. We're talking all open and maybe some NHL stuff if Jeff wants to do that.
Yes, I do.
Okay.